Hello everyone, welcome to History and Culture. In ancient China, the emperor, as the supreme ruler of the nation, not only possessed unparalleled power but also had access to 3 palaces, 6 courtyards, and 72 concubines, and even an endless number of beauties. With both a prosperous empire and a multitude of women at his disposal, the emperor's life could be seen as a picture of grandeur and carefree indulgence. However, some emperors stood out by making surprising choices and taking unexpected actions. According to historical records, several emperors came up with unorthodox methods to manage their harem of concubines. Let's take a look at how these emperors enjoyed their power and beauty, and discover their unique and shocking methods for selecting favored women. First method, the sheep cart to select concubines. Sima Yan, the founding emperor of the Jin dynasty, known as Emperor Wu of Jin, was one of the emperors with an extraordinarily large harem. He was the grandson of the famous power broker Sima Yi and the son of Sima Zhao. Historians regard him as one of the emperors in Chinese history with one of the largest harems. According to historical records, Sima Yan's harem consisted of thousands of women, nearly enough to form a military division. Upon ascending to the throne, Sima Yan initially adopted a policy of doing nothing while governing, Wu-wei, focusing on diligent rule and benevolent governance. He was well aware of the downfall of the Wei dynasty and learned from history's lessons to avoid waste. He lived a frugal lifestyle and imposed strict regulations on the living conditions of officials. He even encouraged the common people to engage in farming and weaving to alleviate the burden on them and reduce social unrest. These measures were effective, and the country gradually stabilized. With the people's living conditions improving, a period later known as the Taikang reign. During this period, the Jin dynasty was considered prosperous and peaceful, with citizens wholeheartedly supporting their wise ruler. However, as the political stability and economic development progressed, Sima Yan's behavior began to change. Perhaps it was the luxury of an easy life that made him lazy, or the constant flattery that dulled his senses. But he soon descended into a life of debauchery. On one occasion, to indulge his desires, Sima Yan decreed that all women in the empire should remain unmarried and await his selection. This meant that women across the nation could only marry after he had chosen the ones he desired. After a year of selection, Sima Yan had over 5,000 women enter his harem. But that wasn't the end. After the fall of the Eastern Wu, he brought over 5,000 beauties from the palace of the Eastern Wu's Emperor Sun Hao, which increased his harem to more than 10,000 women. With such a large number of beauties, Sima Yan faced a new dilemma: which concubine should he visit each night? This seemingly simple problem became a challenge for the emperor. As a solution, he came up with a clever method. He ordered several sheep carts to be prepared and would ride one around the palace each evening. The concubines stood at the door of their chambers and used fresh grass to attract the sheep. The cart would stop in front of the concubine's door, and Sima Yan would spend the night with her. To gain a chance to be favored, the concubines tried various methods to attract his attention. Some spread fresh grass at their doorsteps, others placed fresh bamboo branches, and some even sprinkled saltwater on the grass and bamboo leaves to keep the sheep lingering longer. These seemingly ordinary actions were full of strategy, with every detail aimed at keeping the cart at their door for as long as possible, hoping for more favor from the emperor. Second method, the butterfly favoring ritual. Emperor Xuanzong of Tang, Li Longji, had a life filled with dramatic events. From his rise to power to his governance and decisions on succession, his reign was marked by political turmoil, but it was also a time of cultural flourishing. Li Longji was born during the reign of Empress Wu Zetian, and his early life was filled with instability. His father, Li Dan, was deposed from the throne by Wu Zetian, making Li Longji's childhood quite turbulent. It wasn't until 710 AD, when Li Longji joined forces with his aunt, Princess Taiping, to overthrow the power of the Wei clan, that he successfully ascended to the throne. After becoming emperor, Li Longji changed the era name to Kaiyuan to signify his commitment to reforms and good governance. He appointed capable officials like Yao Chong, Song Jing, and Zhang Jiuling as his prime ministers to help manage the state. Li Longji also implemented a series of reforms, including streamlining government institutions, cutting down on bureaucratic excess, and improving work efficiency. Additionally, he strengthened oversight of local officials, establishing a strict assessment system to ensure the smooth implementation of imperial decrees. These unusual methods reveal a fascinating aspect of ancient Chinese imperial life, where the emperor's power extended not just over the nation but also over the personal choices that could shape the lives of thousands. In agriculture, Emperor Li Longji initiated the Land Inspection and Household Registration campaign, which reduced the burden on farmers by re-examining land allocations, while also increasing the state's financial revenue. Militarily, he innovatively established a mercenary system, enhancing the combat effectiveness of the Tang dynasty. He also created administrative regions such as the Anbei Protectorate and Heishui Prefecture, which were responsible for managing border areas such as those inside and outside the Great Wall, Lake Baikal, and the Kamchatka Peninsula, thus strengthening the Tang dynasty's control over its borders. Through these reforms, Li Longji restored the Silk Road to its former glory, recaptured Suiye, and re-established the Tang dynasty's prestige in the western regions, ushering in the historically famous Kaiyuan prosperity. However, over time, Li Longji gradually became less engaged in state affairs and became increasingly indulgent in a life of luxury, ultimately sinking into decadence. Before meeting Yang Guifei, Li Longji had countless beauties in his harem, with each concubine eager to win his favor. As an emperor who handled state matters daily, it was impossible for Li Longji to remember the names of all his concubines. To solve this, he borrowed an idea from Sima Yan but improved upon it by letting butterflies decide which concubine he would favor that night. Every evening, Li Longji would have the concubines wear flower ornaments that had been prepared in advance, and then release butterflies, letting them fly freely. Whichever concubine the butterfly landed on, Li Longji would go to that concubine's chamber for the night. This method was both playful and reflected the extreme indulgence of ancient emperors in their pursuit of pleasure. However, this all lost its meaning once Yang Guifei entered the palace. Her beauty and charm quickly captivated Li Longji, and she became the woman he favored for life, leaving the other concubines without opportunities to gain his attention. The third method, the green head plaque. Many people, when watching historical dramas about the Qing dynasty, often encounter a scene where a eunuch stands before the emperor and hands over a plaque, which bears the names of the various concubines in the imperial harem. This is known as the green head plaque. The emperor would then flip open the plaque, choose a concubine whose name was written on it, and that evening, he would favor her. To prevent attacks by assassins, the fortunate concubine chosen by the emperor would typically be carried to the emperor's chamber after bathing, wrapped in a red quilt and nude, by eunuchs. Some concubines, desperate to be chosen, would even secretly bribe the eunuchs in charge of the green head plaques, asking them to place their name in the most prominent position to increase their chances of being selected. These green head plaques actually controlled the fate of the concubines in the imperial harem, directly influencing their honor, disgrace, and status. Each plaque would usually list the concubine's name, family, age, and other basic information. Through this, it becomes clear that in ancient society, a woman's fate was not only her own affair but also closely tied to the family she belonged to. The rise and fall of a family often depended on these selection opportunities. According to some historians, through these practices, it is evident that the status of women in ancient China was incredibly low. In a patriarchal society, a woman's fate and dignity were often determined by male power. Whether it was the Qing dynasty's green head plaque, the Tang dynasty's butterfly favoring method, or the Jin dynasty's sheep cart selection of concubines, they all highlighted the supreme status and power of men. This is the History and Culture channel. Liking and subscribing are the greatest help and support to us. Thank you everyone, and see you in the next time.